Fox 26 in Houston, meteorologist Mike Iscovitz is with us right now. Mike, how bad did it get? Did you ever imagine you'd see something like this in Houston?
No, not only did I never imagine it, but nobody else did either, except for maybe a select few who are the people that are in the know in charge of the energy grid. I'll tell you, Billy, I was on the air on Monday morning, and we knew that it was going to be a very cold President's Day. The temperatures were not really a surprise to anybody. What was a huge surprise was the incredible failure of the electricity and the whole power grid across Texas. So I was actually here in my home office doing the morning news. The power went out at about 5:45, and it stayed out. And the temperature outside, the high temperature was 25 degrees, and then the low temperature the next morning was 13. And so I was dealing with it myself, with my family, two teenage girls, a 9-year-old, my wife, a dog, and a cat. We all ended up huddled in one room, sleeping together with no electricity, no heat. It was pretty miserable, but a lot of other people here in Houston, Billy, had it way worse than we did. You literally had people with no electricity. The temperatures inside people's homes and apartments dropped into the 30s. And so people had to resort to staying in their cars and just running the engine to get that heat. Other people made some bad decisions, doing things like burning charcoal in the house, which led to carbon monoxide poisoning. And very, very sadly, there was an elderly woman who was apparently beloved in her community that we reported on today. Everybody called her Mama. She was a great grandmother, and she died of freezing to death in her living room, in her recliner. It is so, so sad.
Oh my God, come on, really? That's awful.
It's awful. And you know, the thing is, we've had these temperatures before. This isn't a completely unprecedented event. And as a forecaster, yes, it's odd. It doesn't happen that often, but occasionally we'll see temperatures this cold. We haven't really seen it this cold for about 30 years or so. And the city has about doubled in size in the last 30 years. So you have a ton more people, on top of the fact that you had this total failure in our electrical grid. To add insult to injury, the water went out. We had busted pipes all over the city. That caused the water pressure to drop out. And so you had people who had no access to water. And then the water that was coming out of the tap was not drinkable because it had, the potential of being contaminated. And so you had people for the last, part of Monday, we had Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and even today with no water. Although I will say that the power is finally back on for most Houstonians.
Ted Cruz is taking a beating for his great escape. I assume the governor is probably on the hook. This is the oil and gas state, so I imagine the finger pointing for the non-reliance on oil and gas is probably begun and will get worse. Is that right?
Everybody wants answers right now. We all want answers. As a news organization here at Fox 26 in Houston, we're trying to get answers. I know all of the people out there are really, it's a mixture of being frustrated and just plain angry because it seems like whoever you ask, when you go to the governor's office, the governor says, well, it wasn't our fault. It was ERCOT, which is the Electric Reliability Council of Texas. And when you talk to ERCOT, they pass the buck to the people who generate the electricity. And so there's a lot of finger pointing going on, and it is mind-bogglingly complicated to even understand how all this works, between the people making the energy and the people selling the energy. And we do it different here in Texas than they do elsewhere across the country. And we're still trying to get to the bottom of exactly how this could have been prevented. But from what we understand, people saw this coming and knew that our generation centers should have been winterized and should have been prepared for this type of thing, and weren't. And so people died as a result of this, and somebody should be answerable for this. It's a crying shame.
Well, we come together in adversity. Have you seen some nice examples of people helping people?
Well, let me tell you, I can tell you just in my own street right here, which is right in front of me, my neighbor next door, we didn't have a generator. And so they knew that we were all in here huddled up, family of 5 and the pets and everything, all just trying to keep warm. So he ran me a line from his generator without me even asking, came over and said, hey, look, here's a plug. You could plug stuff into it. We had 2 neighbors who dropped off firewood because that was the only means we really had to stay warm. And would you believe it? And I'm not kidding. I kid you not, Billy, that I was one of those people who burned furniture. Now, granted, I didn't take like the living room couch and burn it, but we had a bench that my wife had bought years ago that I never liked. And I was kind of desperate to generate some heat. And so I went in there and I said, here we go. And I took the legs off of it, and those legs went in the fireplace, and they stayed lit for a couple of hours. And you got to do what you got to do. And there are a lot of stories like that around. But
Mike,
I got to tell you, here,
Mike, did your wife retaliate with your Barca lounger?
if the guitar went in there, then I would be really angry, because that
see
is
this,
made out
Mike?
of mahogany.
You see this, Les Paul? You're a lousy guitarist, first of all. Second of all, I'm cold.
That's true. That's true. No, but in all seriousness, people here, we have one of our most famous local retailers is a place called Gallery Furniture. And the owner is a guy named Jim Mattress Mac McInvale. He really epitomizes the spirit here of Houston. He opened up his doors to this huge furniture store where they sell very expensive mattresses. He opened his doors so that people could come in that had no place to stay, sleep on these mattresses that he's selling for probably $2,000 or $3,000. Sleep there, get warm, get food. And that's an example of what we really saw across the entire area. So that's one positive that came out of it. And another thing that seems to sort of amuse a lot of other parents out there is that the one good thing that this power outage had, at least on our family, is it's the first time in at least a year that my teenagers got off of TikTok.
Yeah, that's a win. That's a win. A Pyrrhic victory, but a win nonetheless.
I think also Lakewood Church, Pastor Joel Osteen, it's one of the biggest churches in the country. I think he opened his doors to people. And it came down, there was a point where everybody was, even my wife said this, she says, gosh, we were just left to fend for ourselves. And that's one of the things that's making people really angry, Billy, is that not only was the power out, but nobody was told how long it was going to be out. They were sort of just saying, oh, it'll come back on soon. It'll come back on soon. 24 hours later, you have these tragedies taking place. And so I want to stress, though, this is not the fault of our local government. Our mayor, Sylvester Turner, our local fire chief, Pena, and police chief, Acevedo, everybody has done an amazing job of keeping the community safe and keeping us informed. Our county judge, Lena Hidalgo, they've done everything they can. This is completely out of their control. This was a state issue, and it was an issue involving this very difficult to understand, convoluted electrical grid system that we have here in Texas.
Well, it's amazing. The right people rise up in tough moments. Mike, thank you so much. Really appreciate your stories and sharing that. Thank you for watching. If you want more extra, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you'll never miss a video.